Hello, in this video we're going to talk about how to create indicators that will be able to summarize some data and how to create indicators that will present the average for some data. To illustrate the idea, I'm going to create a new project, new scorecard without anything, an empty scorecard, and let's add two indicators here. One will be revenue and another will be customer satisfaction. Now let's put some random numbers into the revenue, which can be 15, 20, 21, 25, and so on. And as well, we can put some random numbers in customer satisfaction, which can be 70%, 75, 75 again, and let's put here 80. Now, the first thing that we can do is to change the grouping period. Now we see all the data as we input it, we see it by months. But we can change using this option. We can change to view by quarters. And in this case, for the customer satisfaction, we see here some number. And for the revenue, we also see here some number. Obviously, for the customer satisfaction, it looks like a lot what we have here, an average of what we have here. If we want to make sure that it's actual average of these very numbers, not of the inherited values, we need to use this option, use entered values only. And the difference between these two options is discussed in a separate video. Now, for the purpose of this demo, just believe me that it's easier in this case to use this option. And the default grouping type is average, but I can pick another one just to make sure it's not just a document default, but average that will not depend on what settings we have in this document. Okay, so now we have 73.33, which is exactly an average for the first quarter that we have here. Okay, now let's switch to revenue. For the revenue, we don't want to see here an average. We want to see here a sum of these values, sum of changed. And again, for the purpose of this demo, it will be easier to use this option. So I'm switching it here. And let's put here some max values so we don't have chart here. Okay, so now we have here in the value field, we have 56, which is exactly the sum of these values for the first quarter. For the first quarter, we have 15 plus 20, 35 plus 21. Yeah, we have 56 as a result. And this 25 goes to the second quarter. Now what we can also do, we can also enter some target figure for each month. For example, for the first month, we might have a target which is a 22, second 22, 22. This, let's put it 30. So what the software does for us, it calculates the target value for these 3 months. So the target value is the sum of these target figures. 22 plus 22 plus 22, we have 66 here. So basically that's the way we can track revenue indicator here. What about customer satisfaction? We can also put some target figures here for each month. But here, as a target, we don't see the sum of the target values. We see the average. Why? Because the grouping type for this indicator is assigned to average. So in this way, we can actually compare how we are going uh, against uh, our targets. Yeah, this is one way. Okay, now let me switch to daily view again. And let's create another indicator, revenue. Actually, I'm going to copy the indicator that I already had. So revenue 2, and this will be revenue 1. Okay, and let's go to the grouping by quarters so that we can see it. Now, probably we don't want to set targets for each month, revenue target for each month, but we want to set them in the beginning of the year. So I can just put here some targets that I have for the whole year, which can be something like 200. And max can be also 200. And here we have the target. And for each quarter, we'll be able to see how the target is changing. Yeah, if I group by year, I actually see how I'm going in terms of this year. Yeah. So I have my target 200 and now it's 81. So let's see if I change here, for example, to 40, the current value will move. And using the same logic, we can actually set targets for the quarters as well. In this case, I will need to put here individual target figures here. So for the first quarter, I will have a target of, let's say, 60. And for the second quarter, I can have a target of 70. So first quarter, the target is 60, and I have achieved 56, which actually gives me here, I see the figure, this figure here, it's 93.33% progress. So I almost done, achieved the target. And for the second quarter, the figures are different. The target is 70, and for now I have just achieved 40, so the progress is different. So that's the idea. And we actually can choose how we want to track the progress. Do we want to track it month by month to have a target for each month, or we want to put just target for each quarter, or in the same way we can change and put target for each year. Yeah. And the same can be applied for the customer satisfaction index. So to summarize, if we need to track such indicators that requires not the average but the sum of the values that have some certain that are accumulating the value through the year, then we need to use this option, sum of changed. In this case, the software, when we're using this group by function, it will summarize for us the value and the target. And we can put target for each month, or we can put target for each quarter or for each year. Yeah, and if we need to track something that makes sense, if we are looking at the average value, like for example customer satisfaction, we don't need to see here a sum. Let's change it to sum. Yeah. So for me, it doesn't make sense to have 220% of customer satisfaction. So we don't need to have here sum of changed, but we need to have average, and this gives us a different figure that makes sense in our context. Actually, for customer satisfaction, probably it's interesting to see what was the maximum customer satisfaction over their period of time. Yeah, because the customer satisfaction might be fluctuating through the period. So if I choose here that in a grouped value, I want to have a maximal value, and basically then if I group by quarters, I will see the figure that makes a perfect sense in my case. So now I have 80% for the second quarter, and for the first quarter I have 75. Yeah. And let's emulate the situation that we had some fluctuations here. So we had like 60 in the beginning, 85 in the middle, and 75 here. So it will be 85. The software shows us the maximum customer satisfaction. So basically, we can choose what we want to see here, an average or max. So that's how the software can manage with these two types of the values. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to get back to us.